Season 1 of The War Within is going to see a major cash prize for one of its competitions. However, the stipulations might kind of surprise you a little bit. But for now, servers are down. My name is Swag, and this is the Vault Day Update. Today's video is brought to you by Zygor. Zygor is an in-game guide system for World of Warcraft. Zygor assists with questing, leveling, and so much more. It will even turn in your quests for you and give you a dynamic arrow to point you where to go. If you're interested in learning more about Zygor, you can check out the link down below. And if you use code SWAGLOCK, you get an extra 20% off. Blizzard has been able to renegotiate a deal with NetEase to bring World of Warcraft to China and its other games as well. If you don't know, Blizzard is not allowed to operate in China on its own. It needs a Chinese company to operate through. And for the last 1.5 to 2 years, China has not had access to World of Warcraft because of a dispute in their agreements. To celebrate this deal, NetEase has built this massive 15-meter statue of Gorehowl. Although it's a light-forged version of Gorehowl, and it's kind of sick, and I really hope we get a transmog for it in the game. I'm not going to lie, I would be a little upset if it became a Chinese exclusive transmog. Please don't do that to us, Blizzard. I want to get Gorehowl myself. I will start playing Ret Paladin if that's what it takes to have a Lightforged Gorehowl. I don't even like DPS. Speaking of things that are exclusive to China, NetEase is also offering a cash prize of over $100,000 to whichever Chinese guild wins the Race to World First. So it has to be a Chinese guild, and they have to win the Race to World First, not just for China, but in, well, the whole world. It is the Race to World First. And for every season that a guild does not claim that cash prize, it will be raised higher and higher, I believe by about $25,000. Traditionally, Echo and Liquid, my favorite team, tend to win about 50-50 for the Race to World First. So I don't suspect we'll see a Chinese team win anytime soon. It's going to take a lot of teamwork and prep and getting familiar with how they play together. But who knows? This will be an interesting competition. It has been found that portals to the allied race zones will be available to all players and not just that specific allied race moving forward, which is kind of exciting. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but you know, if you like to explore, it is pretty cool to see. I suspect this is likely because the Void Elf starting zone is kind of a valuable part of the story for the World Within, even if it's just for some pre-patch stuff going on. So it's likely possible that they're just kind of letting us go to all of them to make up for the fact that we will have to go back and forth to the Void Zone. If you're like me and you're kind of just killing time until the War Within comes out, well, you're in luck. Netflix now has the Warcraft movie available to watch. So if you have not seen the movie or you want a good binge for the weekend, it is available on Netflix. And contrary to the hate it gets, I actually kind of like the movie. It's a vibe. It's not perfect, but it looks beautiful and the zones are familiar. You'll definitely recognize plenty in the movie. If you like World of Warcraft competitions, going on right now is TGP, The Great Push. This is a competition of the best dungeon groups in the world competing to see who can push their keys the highest. It's an opportunity to see some crazy moves and strategies that you would have never attempted with your friends. Maybe you can even implement some of them. The next push is going to start July 12th, so that's coming up this weekend. If you don't know where to watch, they do have a broadcast on the Warcraft Twitch and YouTube channels, which also have some of your favorite WoW commentators speaking on the plays. For my fellow lore nerds, there is a new short story out right now about Thrall and taking a look at some of the orc practices and if they're still worthwhile to do. It's a really fascinating look into some of the cultures that are going on in Azeroth as they prepare for the War Within. I'll put a link down in the bio for anybody looking to read. There's been a lot of controversy throughout Dragonflight on raid buffs. Raid buffs are used to encourage bringing every single class to a raid. That way, everybody feels included and all classes are represented. However, there are two classes that do not bring a raid buff. That would be Shamans and Death Knights. However, Blood Death Knights tend to be very common tanks, so that's not a huge worry, and they do have some utility that does find itself pretty useful for raids. Shamans do not have a raid buff. Enhancement Shamans did have a buff for their group, not the whole raid, just the 5 people in their group. And so in order to give Shamans a raid buff, Blizzard has made 2 moves. One, they have taken that Enhancement Shaman Wind Fury Totem buff that was applied for the 5, and now it is a raid-wide buff called Sky Fury. One of my Shaman friends even told me he hated how much Wind Fury required him to keep it up throughout fights, So now it's not even something you have to worry about. You hit it once and you're done unless you wipe. The second thing Blizzard did is remove a buff from Paladins. Retribution Aura is gone. This is important because it begins to balance out how raid buffs work. That yes, you want at least one of every class in your group, but once you've hit that requirement of one class per group, then it's kind of up to your discretion of how you want to fill out the rest of the roster. With 2 raid buffs on Paladins, it began to require you to have 2 Paladins, which takes up another required slot in your raid, rather than a slot that has a little bit more flexibility. It's been so long since our last Vault Date update, I actually forgot to record this part, but this week's PvP brawl is South Shore versus Terran Mill. It's an old school world PvP style battleground, and it's tons of fun. And the bonus event this week is World Quest. So World Quest this week will give you more reputation, which you can combine with the Dark Moon Fair that ends on Saturday for an even bigger rep boost. And lastly, this week's affixes are Fortified Entangling and Bolstering. Entangling's pretty simple. A green circle will appear around you with a vine. Walk out of it to snap the vine, or else you will be impaired. Bolstering, on the other hand, is a bit tricky, especially when combined with Fortified. When non-boss enemies die, they will empower the other enemies around them. So, if you kill too many mobs at once and there are other mobs alive, they will get incredibly strong because that ability does stack. Combining that with Fortified as well, your tanks are going to have a hard time, and free casting mobs attacking your DPS are going to begin to one-shot. Be careful in how you pull. But that's everything happening in Azeroth this week. My name is Swag, and thank you for letting me be your guide to the World of Warcraft.